Oh my God, it's not Josh. Oh God, thank God Josh isn't hosting this week or starting the video because Hutch hosted the last 2 weeks. Man, it feels good to be back. We have today the Detroit Lions, the Carolina Panthers, and the Denver Broncos for our A Look Inside series continuation. This is our third show. First two hosted by the one, the only Hutchison Brown, the Young Fantasy Mind. We had Matthew Betts on last week. We had Howard Bender from Fantasy Alarm on the week before. And this week, senior writer with the Football Guys and a co-creator of the Carolina Fandom Podcast. What better person to have on to talk about the Carolina Panthers than one Jeff Haseley of Football Guys? So we're very excited to have him on, and let's get the show started right now. Welcome in to No Punt Intended, presented by Club Fantasy. I'm going to start again because Josh interrupted me. Welcome in to No Punt Intended, presented by Club Fantasy. Whoever made that intro video must be really good and do this for a living or something like that, because that was kick-ass. First time I'm seeing it on stream. Joining me, as always, Joshua Hudson and Ryan Weiss. And, as I said in the intro, for the first time on our show, senior writer with Football Guys and co-creator of the Carolina Fandom Podcast, one, Mr. Jeff Haseley. Jeff, how you doing, man?
I am good, and I want to second that intro. That was hot, man. That was sweet. That was you did that, Joe?
Yes.
That was awesome. Nice job.
Thank you. That's I'm happy and proud to have put that out there. I saw a bunch of people just using the 30-second countdown clip, and I'm like, we're better than that. So then I threw that together.
There you go.
Yeah,
Joe's head grew 3 sizes that day.
With every compliment, it just grows bigger and bigger.
Yeah, my pants grew a little bit too while I was making that intro, which is the even stranger part.
Sweatpants, Joe.
Yeah, 2 minutes and 30 seconds in on my first show back in a month, and we're off the rails.
Off the
rails. It's good timing, baby. Good timing. All right, so we're gonna dive into our Look Inside series again. Team previews featuring 3 absolute garbage cans of football teams: the Detroit Lions, Carolina Panthers, and Denver Broncos. But first, we have 2 things: a fun fact and then a question. I guess the question is also kind of a fun fact. Julio Jones is now a Titan, and his hamstring industry has magically disappeared. The crew over there in Tennessee have already completely gotten rid of his hamstring injury. So, from the gallery, Jeff, we'll start with you. Julio is a Titan. How does this make you feel? Just overall, you could hone in on Julio as a player, A.J. Brown. How does this affect these guys? But overall thoughts on that signing there.
So I think it's a wonderful signing for Tennessee. I mean, their offense just absolutely climbs a mountain there in terms of their ability to do whatever the heck they want to do with Derrick Henry. I mean, he's not going to see 8, 9 people in the box anymore, not with Brown and not with Julio. And, that's going to be a tough offense to stop. So I think that Tennessee definitely wins in terms of their offense. Now, their defense is another story because, they were the absolute last place team in terms of third down conversion allowed last year. Yep. Over 50%, which is a record in NFL history. So
tends to happen. We have Malcolm Butler as one of your top
that is an issue. And they also lost to Dory Jackson too, right? Mm-hmm. And they added Bud Dupree. That helps. But at the same time, the offense is it's going to be interesting to see exactly how well Tennessee does. I still think Indianapolis wins the division. But Tennessee is going to definitely
a lot
put
on
up some
Carson
points.
Wentz.
I think they'll put up some points, especially if their defense isn't that good. They're going to have to put up points.
Yeah. So, it's just funny because that's not the way you traditionally would look at the Tennessee Titans. You would look at them as a defensive team that's going to run the ball. And now all of a sudden we're talking about their offense is going to carry them. And that's just a complete change in culture. So,
well, yeah. I mean, losing Arthur Smith will also add to
that. I love the point that Jeff brought up is that Tennessee, they got better, but their odds of winning a Super Bowl shouldn't have gone up super high. Their defense is garbage. Like, they don't have a defense. Danico Autry, they got from Indy. Great, fantastic. He's going to get you 2 sacks a season and maybe plug a couple holes in 3 games this year or 2 games against the Texans, who have the worst football team in the NFL. Your linebackers are still suspect. Rashaan Evans Jayon Brown can't really stay healthy. Bud Dupree, cool, great, fast. You can easily block Bud Dupree with a chip off on the tight end on the edge. Their secondary's garbage. It doesn't matter. Their secondary's terrible.
Yeah, they were one of 3 teams last year that didn't record 20 sacks. So you would hope Bud Dupree is going to step up and do that. But you're right. He's an easily blockable guy, and there's a big debate whether Dupree is a product of the system and the talent around him in Pittsburgh, or if he's going to be able to go there and do it.
Bud Dupree before TJ Watt was nothing. Go look at his stats. Before TJ Watt was TJ Watt, Bud Dupree sucked.
Wasn't that just like 1 season, though?
No, it was a couple seasons.
Okay.
Yeah, no, Bud Dupree was nothing before TJ Watt came opposite him, and the entire offensive line had to shift left or right. Whichever side TJ Watt was on, that left Bud Dupree wide open because he wasn't getting the tight end chip. It may open stuff for Jeffrey Simmons in the middle, who had a great second year last year, but again, it's doing nothing. Congratulations, Ryan Tannehill. You have one more guy to lazily throw the football to and probably do nothing for your statistics because you're still Ryan Tannehill. I think the only good news is that A.J. Brown is not going to get double-teamed anymore. Yeah. So I think this only helps A.J. Brown. Anyone saying it hurts A.J. Brown is wrong because A.J. Brown was going to get double-teamed before because the next best option after him was Josh Reynolds, who doesn't know how to run a route properly. And Julio now gets opposite A.J. Brown. A.J. Brown, and I know Jeff just wrote an article saying Calvin Ridley could be the wide receiver 1. A.J. Brown could be the wide receiver 2 or 1B right behind Calvin Ridley because A.J. Brown is getting no attention. He'll get the number 1 guy, but we've seen A.J. Brown can torch the number 1 guy. And the number 1 guy in his division for every single team is garbage. Yeah. Xavier Rhodes, C.J. Henderson, and whatever dog shit player they have at corner in Houston. Like, A.J. Brown will torch them 6 games a year. So great move for Tennessee. Fantastic. I don't think it helps their Super Bowl hopes as much as people are actually thinking. A top-tier wide receiver has never won a team a Super Bowl. Yeah. Never. They've never done it. And last thing I wanted to bring up, because Aaron Rodgers' whole thing that he hasn't shown up to the mini camp, and if he doesn't show up, he gets fined $93,000. I wanted to do that math in my head just to compare it to the average person. So
this doesn't happen often, folks. Joe is allergic to numbers. Let's be honest here.
Well, this isn't bullshit analytics. This is hard numbers. Based off of his income last season, which is I'm going off of the $108 million price that Aaron Rodgers basically raked in last year. Just from his salary and bonuses, that's what it's from, not including any endorsement deals, the subpar job he did on Jeopardy, not including any of that. It costs him, the $93,000 fine, it cost him 0.000816% of his salary. To the average person making $40,000 a year, that's like getting fined $27. Wow. That's ridiculous.
Is that per day?
I was gonna say per day it adds up.
Yeah. $27 a day, man. Damn.
I mean, yeah, no, sure, $27 a day. I find that amazing that it's not even 1/1000th of a percent of Aaron Rodgers' salary. That's absurd.
Has Green Bay come out and said whether they're going to fine him yet? Because I know they cannot fine him, and I feel like that would be a gesture of goodwill they should certainly be doing.
I thought it was a league fine.
No,
they're all team-based fines with when you skip mandatory mini camps or anything of that nature. Like, there are plenty of teams that don't fine the players.
Yeah.
And again, a lot of times it's just because of, contract negotiations or whatever it may be. And more often than not, when you decide to fine the player, you're just creating more bad blood. That's just going to make it harder to bring the player into camp anyway.
Rodgers has all the leverage in this. I almost wonder if he's like just kind of toying with them a little bit, and he's going to show up when he wants to show up. And and it's all going to be all rainbows and unicorns, but right now it's definitely not. And I could see him sitting out if he wanted to. It's all up to him. It's literally all up to him.
You're not wrong in that sense. Green Bay gave him this giant contract to sit on, and they paid him, like I said, $108 million last year. That's how much was guaranteed in the first year.
Yeah.
I think Aaron Rodgers sitting out is fine. He could get fined every single game this entire year, and I don't think he would notice anything in his bank account. I'm pretty sure he would.
Well, especially considering how much money he's made up to this point anyway.
Up to this point. And again,
Yeah.
this is not including like the State Farm endorsement deal, which I'm sure pays him handsomely. So like
He could pay these fines without that and still
absurd.
be fine.
Absurd. Absolutely absurd. He's not hurting for money in the slightest. He's not at all. Well, let's dive into the team who he continuously has absolutely destroyed since he's entered the league, the Detroit
Great
Lions.
segue, Joe.
Great
Perfect.
segue. Thank you. Last year's record, they were 5-11. Dan Campbell, who will last one season in Detroit, is the new head coach. I mean, really, hold on. The only way he lasts more than a season is because it's Detroit and they don't make good decisions, so they may keep him for 3 years. But starting with our upside, Ryan. Wow, we have three different. Also, let's just give a little round of applause to Jeff here. He did the whole show doc when he didn't need to, so big shout out to Jeff here. But upside, Ryan, you got Jamal Williams, Josh, Quintez Cephas, and Jeff, you did DeAndre Swift. Downside, Josh and Ryan, you have DeAndre Swift, and we'll get to why in a second. And Jeff, you have Tyrell Williams. Trust fall, TJ Hawkinson across the board, because who the hell else are you going to trust on this team? Rookie to watch, Amon-Ra St. Brown, because again, name me another rookie on this team. My sleeper, don't draft him, Khalif Raymond. Name me a guy who's not dog shit on this team, and you put him as your sleeper. Like, they're all terrible. But Jeff says Sage Surratt. He was rejected a full ride to Harvard Business to play football in the ACC. Probably should have just taken the full ride to Harvard at that point. Wow, imagine rejecting.
You're not wrong.
Imagine rejecting a full ride to Harvard Business School to play at Wake Forest.
Yeah, right.
Wow.
Wake Forest isn't a bad
how much he wants to play
academic
football.
school, though.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm
He has
not
the
saying.
passion.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying Wake Forest is a bad academic school. I'm just saying, imagine going to Wake Forest to play football and rejecting
And
a
he
full
was good.
ride.
He was literally one of the best wide receivers in the ACC. We haven't seen him because he opted out this past year. So it's out of sight, out of mind. And
Interesting.
he has an opportunity. I know we're getting ahead of ourselves with this sleeper call here, but he has an opportunity, especially with Detroit.
I love the deep dive there. I absolutely love the deep dive. Also love that Jeff knew he rejected a full ride to Harvard Business School. I love that tidbit.
That's a deep
That's
dive.
great. And then my IDP, Romeo Okwara, only if your league likes sacks. And Jeff even did IDPs. What a guy. He picked Derek Barnes. So yeah, my caveat with Okwara is he's not going to probably get you a lot of tackles. It's mostly going to be a sack-heavy league. But let's start with DeAndre Swift, because obviously there's two disagreeing viewpoints here.
Yeah.
I know Josh and Ryan's viewpoint of you're not sure if he, the splits with Jamal Williams and things like that, him being drafted relatively high for most likely being a split backfield. Jeff, why do you see what do you see in the upside with DeAndre Swift, despite where he's being taken in drafts?
Yeah, for me, it's all about value. And Swift is a running back that you're going to find like pretty much like after Josh Jacobs gets drafted, right around there, maybe before. It's possible he could go before Josh Jacobs. Depends on who you're drafting with. All it takes is one person to really like Swift.
Yep.
Or it takes a lot of people to say, you know what, I don't like Swift, and he gets passed on. But in my opinion, he's a running back. He's a starter, of course, who is going to have the opportunity to have volume. This whole Jamal Williams thing, I think, is getting a little bit blown out of proportion. I love Jamal Williams. I really like what he was able to do with Green Bay. But I don't see him really as the major ball carrier. I see him more as a specific role that he's going to carve out. He's not going to be the major carrier. That's Swift. I think it would be wrong for us to think otherwise. Swift scored 10 touchdowns on 398 snaps last year.
Yeah.
And that was 118 carries. That's it. And he never really got the chance to establish himself. The most carries he had in a game was 16. If he gets the opportunity to show what he can do with this new coaching staff, I think he's going to get the ball, and I think he's going to do well. Now, the concern is, well, how good is Detroit going to be? So there's also that caveat. Detroit, I think, is going to rival Houston in terms of the worst team in the league.
Yeah.
But Swift is the bright spot. And you asked who has upside. I still think it's Swift. We haven't seen his best yet, and you can get him at a discount in drafts. So, in my opinion, he's an upside pick.
I just don't know about the discount in drafts because I actually do like DeAndre Swift. I've actually spent most of my time defending DeAndre Swift. To Jeff's point, we don't know what Jamal Williams is, but I'm going to take it a step further. Let's say we buy into the Anthony Lynn nonsense that Jamal Williams is the A-back. Anthony Lynn is the guy who gave us Austin Eckler and to an extent Danny Woodhead. And then Dan Campbell gave us Alvin Kamara. These are guys who thrive on pass catching. I'm not that worried about Swift, but the discount right now, I've been using a lot of underdog ADP because there's skin in the game. And Swift is going off the board as the third pick of the third round. So I just don't quite know that there's much of a discount yet. And if we're wrong and they go in here and run this nonsense multi-back with Williams, Swift, and maybe one of these two rookies, Boyd or Jamar Jefferson, it gets a little hairy at that point. I want Swift to be a thing, and I hope there's a discount. Believe me, Jeff, I hope you are right.
You don't think the third pick in the third round, sorry to interrupt, is a discount? I think it is for a running back who's going to be, a fantasy RB2, essentially.
If he's a 100-target guy, it's the greatest discount that's ever existed.
Right.
We just don't know, and it's a lot to gamble on an unknown. When I put him as downside, I just feel he has the most to lose. I'm not a person who's telling anybody to avoid DeAndre Swift at this point, but there's a lot of risk involved.
I remember a time when people were talking about taking him in the top of the second, back of the first, even the middle of the second. Like his ADP right now on fantasy data is like RB21. I'm okay with that price, but we've seen the upside of Aaron Jones get capped by Jamal Williams. And you're now talking about another young running back with pass catching upside who's also really good in between the tackles, out wide, just as a running back in general. Jamal Williams now comes in. This is a guy that's very solid as a pass blocker on third downs. He does everything okay. He's not really exceptional at anything, but he does just enough to gain people's trust or gain the coach's trust, And that goes a long way in football circles. And I think that's sometimes where us as fantasy managers and in the fantasy community as a whole tend to overlook those little aspects of actually playing football, right? And that's my biggest issue really with Swift. It's not because I don't love him as a talent, because I do. I think he's absolutely exceptional. I mean, he had 83 targets last year and never in the first half of the season played more than 50% of snaps. I think over the full season, he only topped that number 2 or 3 times.
A lot of people had Swift as their RB1 coming out last year in a class with Jonathan Taylor.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, I mean, we know the talent. The talent is there. But it's just a matter of what are coaches seeing? Because so many of us in the fantasy community were like, Swift is really good. He's a great all-around back. He can pass block. He can catch passes. He can run in between the tackles, run outside. He can do all of these things. He just never saw the volume in college. And so then it becomes, well, can it translate to the next level? It's kind of the same thing with Josh Jacobs. It's just John Gruden's stubborn and just said, hey, we're going to give him all the volume, except we're not going to throw him passes. That's the big difference there. They're throwing the passes to DeAndre Swift. They're not giving him the volume elsewhere. And that really is what, to me, stunts the upside. But knowing his ADP, it makes it a better risk. But again, it's June. It's only going to go up the more we talk about him. And that then still makes it a risk because unless Williams suffers some type of injury or they add another back a la Todd Gurley, who we've heard talked about, again, that's just one more obstacle, and it makes him harder to trust.
Well, I'd say if Anthony Lynn keeps talking the way he's talking, I could see that ADP going down because he seems like maybe that's what Anthony Lynn's trying to do, though. He's just trying to help fantasy managers out and just drive that value down a little bit.
Or he's just trying to lessen the expectations on the player.
Anthony Lynn has never helped fantasy managers.
I think Swift is going to be. I think he's going to be way over our expectations this year. I really do. And getting him in that third round, I think, is a steal.
Yeah, I agree. I actually just went and checked my projections. I have Swift as my RB13. So if I get my RB13 at the 303, it's a complete robbery.
That's higher than mine. I have him 18th. I have him 18th.
Yep.
So I mean, and I get it. I just think that he's someone, and it's not like I would take those other backs ahead of him pretty much. I just like where Swift is, where you can get him, and what his potential is. Absolutely. Even on a down team with no receivers, he's going to get a lot of targets. I think 100 targets is well within reach, especially what we've seen from him in the past. And we know he's a touchdown scorer.
Yep.
100 targets definitely in reach when your receiving core consists of Brashad Perryman, Tyrell Williams, Tom Kennedy, Geronimo Allison.
Is Tom Kennedy a real name? I thought you made that up.
I thought you were going with like
step
John
up at
Kennedy,
wide receiver.
Rob Kennedy. I thought you were just going down the whole Kennedy line with that one.
Nope.
Yeah, it's funny because
Tom Kennedy is a current wide receiver listed on Detroit's depth chart.
And then one thing we're not talking about, and Joe, it's your favorite player to ever talk about, is Jared Goff is going to want to use short routes, and that's where Swift will be used. And Swift caught more than 80% of the passes thrown his way last year. So
I'm laughing because I just looked at the depth chart with
Tom Kennedy.
I don't know who Tom Kennedy is.
Tom Kennedy. Well, Ryan.
He could be Tom Waddle for all we know.
I sort of do this for a living, and I don't know who this person is.
I really feel bad because Tom Kennedy probably had a wonderful college career. He's probably loving the fact that he's on Detroit. He's got a chance.
Oh, hold on. No one loves the fact that they're on Detroit. Let's back up.
Well, he does.
Fact.
If he's on Detroit, then he's nowhere. So I mean, he's thankful.
Wow. Right? All right. So you wanna. So he's age 24. He is 5'11", 192. Not a big guy, not a small guy. He was acquired as a free agent back in May of 2019 from Detroit. He was then waived, put on the practice squad, activated, waived, practice squad, signed as a free agent for 2020, waived in September of 2020, practice squad player for 2020, and then he signed as a free agent for Detroit. So, you know what I'm hearing? You know what I'm hearing? Tom Kennedy's due for a start. He's due for a start.
I was going to say, he's Jeff Janis.
He also played college at Bryant University. I believe that is a Division II football school in Massachusetts. Could be wrong, but I believe so. Okay, yeah, what the hell more is there to talk about this freaking team? Jared Goff sucks.
Watch out for TJ Hawkinson.
Well, now keep in mind, Jared Goff sucks also went to the Super Bowl.
Don't get Joe started.
But my question though with Goff is he going to be the rookie mistake that we saw, or is he going to be the Goff that Sean McVay kind of molded? And I kind of think it's going to be somewhere in between.
Jeff, Rex Grossman and Trent Dilfer played in the Super Bowl. That means shit to me. That means
he still made it.
I will say, watch out
on the backs of defenses.
Yes.
TJ Hawkinson, the recipe for a breakout tight end starts with the team having no wide receiver one, and that is Detroit. So,
yeah,
and a quarterback that can't throw the ball anywhere, and the biggest target is TJ Hawkinson.
There you go.
And he liked going to tight ends last year, if I'm not mistaken.
He did.
Did Jared Goff?
Just not necessarily Tyler Higbee.
Yeah, sorry, Hitman.
We can bring that up in a couple weeks.
No, it's still a little sore. All right. Let's dive here into the Carolina Panthers. The whole reason why Jeff's here.
Yeah, Jeff's team.
Yeah. Last year's record, 5-11. Matt Rule comes in. He seemed to have some good momentum at points. Their defense is bad. Their defense is not good. they're getting better. They're just not good. And I think that's probably the biggest hole here, along with the question at quarterback, which we'll get to in a second. Upside. Ryan, you got Robbie Anderson. Josh, Sam Darnold. Jeff, Terrence Marshall. Name three more guys. Terrace?
Pronounce it correctly.
Yeah.
Terrace.
No N.
There
Terrace?
is no N in his name. It is
Like-
Terrace Marshall.
Like the thing that Juliet walked onto in Romeo and Juliet? Terrace?
There you go,
Yeah.
folks.
Terrace.
There you go.
High class podcast here.
We bougie, baby.
Terrace Marshall.
Yes.
Terrace.
He's a junior, too, so there's two more of those guys. Did they just forget the N on the birth certificate, or like what happened? Terrace. What a name.
Oh man.
What a name. Okay.
I'm glad that I could be here at this moment when you realized that his name was Terrace.
Terrace.
To be fair, I've been correcting people all off season. So
Terrence.
You
Who
can
the
call
hell
him Terrace if you want. It just he probably won't like it.
no.
I'm gonna.
And we'll never be able to get him on the podcast, so thanks for that, Joe.
Wasn't expecting
Let's
a
move
Romeo and
along.
Juliet reference. You know what, Gridiron Block? That's what I'm here for. That's what I'm here for. The unexpected references, just for you, my friend. Okay, downside, DJ Moore, clean sweep across the board there. Trust fall, Christian McCaffrey, clean sweep across the board. Rookie to watch, Terrace Marshall for
There you
Ryan
go.
and Jeff, and for Josh, Chuba Hubbard. God, I wish it was Chuba. His name would be so much. The names would be so much better if it was Terrence Marshall and Chuba Hubbard. Come on, missed opportunity, parents. Why didn't you think this far into
You're
the
not
future?
wrong.
I know.
Hindsight's always 2020.
It's true. Sleeper, Dan Arnold. Jeff, you also have Dan Arnold as your sleeper, stating he's 6'6", 220 pounds, small for a tight end when it comes to his girthiness, but big for a wide receiver. He's basically a wide receiver that is, for some reason, listed as a tight end.
Yeah.
Carolina was terrible in the red zone. They non-existent at the tight end position last year. Shout out Lauren for suggesting Ian Thomas 1 week last year. He had 2 targets for 0 catches. That's our stepmom Lauren right there.
Ian Thomas.
But Dan Arnold will play more like a wide receiver, and Sam Darnold likes throwing to tight ends, we think. We don't really know. Because Chris Herndon was supposed to be a thing, but Chris
He
Herndon
was his
wasn't a
rookie year.
thing. But IDP, Jeff and I both have Brian Burns. That's the guy who's featured on the graphic. Great all-around guy, but better in sack-heavy leagues because he does a lot of rushing the passer. But he also, I looked at his stats last year. I was shocked at how well he played, actually. Like, I didn't hear his name a lot. And Jeff, obviously, you watch every game. But I didn't hear his name a lot when I watched the games. I didn't
That's
realize
because
how...
Carolina has an awful lot of 1 o'clock games that don't
Yes.
get national recognition. And that'll be the case again this year. However, yeah, Brian Burns is a huge piece of that defense. And not only him, but also getting J.C. Horn at corner, a place where they absolutely needed help, having a potential shutdown corner, or at least a corner who can kind of minimize the field in terms of where the quarterback's going to target, is definitely going to help out the defense. And Brian Burns, I think, is in for a career year.
Dude was so good at Florida State.
Yeah,
Good.
I was shocked when I looked back at his stats. He's a stat sheet stuffer. Like, he really is. He really is. And also, just honorable mention, Jeremy Chin.
I was surprised that you didn't have him, honestly, as much as you lean like tackles and safeties in general.
The reason I put Brian Burns, because when I looked back at stats, when I did our IDP show and I looked back, I was genuinely shocked at how well Brian Burns played.
Yeah.
So I was like, damn, he's only going to get better. And Jeremy Chin's obviously only going to get better. Jeremy Chin is ridiculous. What a draft pick by Matt Rule. He's
Pains me
unbelievable.
every day that we took Jalen Hurts instead of Jeremy Chin. I'm just saying.
Why? You have
Just
your
saying.
starting quarterback this year.
Yeah, but maybe if we don't pick him, Carson Wentz doesn't get in his own head and actually has a decent year.
Well, that's true. Also, if you don't pick him, you have the greatest quarterback to ever live, Joe Flacco, starting this year. So you're right. Yeah, screw Jalen Hurts. You
there
don't
you
need
go.
him.
The GOAT, baby.
Yep, you don't need him. But Brian Burns, Jeremy Chin, 2 great guys for IDPs on this defense. Shaq Thompson as well. Yeah, I'm not like the biggest Shaq Thompson guy, but a guy nonetheless in there as well. I feel like the biggest thing here is DJ Moore, because I feel like a lot of people were loving DJ Moore last year, and everyone knows that he's allergic to the end zone. That's nothing new here. I'll start with Jeff, because obviously the Carolina guy. Is it because he's being taken too high? Is it because we don't know how he's going to work with Sam Darnold? What's the reason for DJ Moore being a downside here?
Well, I mean, the biggest reason from a fantasy perspective is the fact that, he's not scoring enough touchdowns, because if he did, we would all be talking about him as the next elite type of wide receiver. Only Calvin Ridley and Stephon Diggs had more 90-yard receiving games than DJ Moore last year. And Moore's had, in 3 years with Carolina, he's had 10 touchdowns. That's it, just 10. And it's obviously that's the issue, is that he can't get into the end zone. And I think that 3 seasons is a pretty decent sample size, but that's not to say that he can't have a really good season. I mean, he could have a career year next year, and then we will forget about it, and then he'll probably regress, and the touchdowns will come down again. However, I think that Terrace Marshall is the touchdown threat that Carolina is going to discover, or if you want to uncover, is just the fact that Marshall is a touchdown scorer, and he's shown that he can do it from all over the field with LSU. He scored 23 touchdowns in his last 19 games. Just the fact that he's from LSU, I mean, he's got that wide receiver fraternity along with all of the good wide receivers from LSU, Justin Jefferson recently. Of course, you've got Odell Beckham, Jamar Chase, so I mean, he's part of that group.
Yeah. And then the connection to Joe Brady.
The thing is that people aren't quite sure about with Terrace Marshall is because they don't really know him that well, because he opted out after he played 7 games last year. And he did well with like 3 quarterbacks that LSU had under center, because they're trying to find their quarterback after Joe Burrow. But he did well with those 3 quarterbacks. And, he's young. He just turned 21.
Yeah.
And we don't really know exactly how well he can be, other than the fact that, he was a 5-star high school recruit. He's got a 4.38, 4.39 speed. I mean, that's incredible. 6'1". He's got the size, the speed, the combination. That's what you want to have in your receiver in the NFL, your fantasy receivers. Next year, in 2022, I think we're going to see DJ Moore and Terrace Marshall, and I think that Robbie Anderson will be elsewhere. He's a free agent at the end of this year. I'm not sure if they'll sign him. If they're smart, they don't. They let him go, and they bring in somebody new who then they don't have to, they can have on a rookie deal. Terrace Marshall is the guy that I think is going to lead the Panthers in touchdowns in terms of wide receivers. Of course, there's McCaffrey, right? But in terms of wide receivers, I think Marshall is the guy who's going to be a huge surprise for the team.
You mentioned the touchdown upside. For me, that lies strictly with Christian McCaffrey. I mean, he is the guy, whether it's on the ground, through the air, whatever it may be. I mean, just looking at the wide receivers in general. I mean, I know Teddy Bridgewater is nothing to shake a stick at. He's literally average when it comes to the quarterback position.
And he's bad in the red zone.
Yeah, exactly. And that's really what this offense missed last year. They missed Christian McCaffrey. He only played 3 games. He averaged 30-plus fantasy points per game in those 3 games. That shows you how amazingly effective he is. And they didn't have that sort of double-digit touchdown presence. A fully healthy Christian McCaffrey brings that to the table, which takes a lot of pressure off Sam Darnold, which then takes a lot of pressure off the rest of the receiving core. They don't need to go out and throw touchdowns to DJ Moore and Robbie Anderson. Go ahead.
I think the offense is just going to be better with McCaffrey, and he'll get his touchdowns. He'll have his double-digit touchdowns, but that also means that there's going to be other opportunities for other people to do so, and that's where I think Marshall's going to come in.
Well, and that's the big thing, is they're going to have to take McCaffrey seriously. As much as we like to wax poetically about what Mike Davis did last year, he didn't average more than 4 yards a carry. He caught all the balls thrown his way, but he didn't do a ton in the passing game when he got the ball.
No efficiency whatsoever.
Yeah, I mean, it was like 6 yards a catch, maybe. And so he's not doing the things that McCaffrey's going to do, but that additional threat is bringing safeties up, and maybe that frees up DJ Moore. But to another extent, Robbie Anderson looked good for spurts last year. Robbie Anderson scored more touchdowns when he was with the Jets and Sam Darnold than he did last year with Teddy Bridgewater, to where we could see Robbie Anderson's touchdown output step up too, all because Christian McCaffrey is there.
Yeah, I like Anderson's touchdown output so much better than I like DJ Moore's. And it's not even because I think that there's some magical connection between Anderson and Darnold, because even when you go back and look at the stats, it's nothing special, like at all.
No.
And Anderson never really popped with Darnold.
Well, he was like a 54% catch rate guy with him too. So.
Exactly. His catch percentage was terrible because Sam Darnold doesn't throw a good football. He doesn't. And he makes a ton of mistakes. So, like, that's where I'm very torn with this whole, like, oh, Darnold's free of Adam Gase. He's going to shine because he's in a new home. And look what Joe Brady was able to do with Teddy Bridgewater. And I'm like, what did he really do with Teddy Bridgewater? There wasn't much of anything there.
You have to understand, though, that Mike Brady's offense is all about shallow cross and horizontal attacking. And that means when Christian McCaffrey is out there as a receiver, or if he's just flanking out as a running back who then is running a route, the defense has to make a play on who they're going to cover. And if they're in zone, they're in trouble. If they're in man, they have a better chance.
Yeah.
And Darnold is not going to have to make those deep throws. He can find the open man over the middle in this shallow cross type of offense that Joe Brady has instilled. So
that also means he has to make quick decisions, though. And for somebody that turns the ball over as much as he does, that's even more detrimental to that.
I will be shocked if we see the same Darnold.
I think Darnold's going to improve.
I mean, I know that I have a little bit of a homer hat on here, even though it's a football guy's hat. I know that, but I also know that they're not going to ask him to do certain things that got him into trouble in the first place. So I think they're going to utilize him to his ability. That's totally what Joe Brady does. Utilize him to his ability and not try to make him do things that he either can't or isn't good at. So I think that we'll be pleasantly surprised with Darnold. Now, I don't think he has like top 12 potential. I'm not saying that, but I think he can break the top 20.
Yeah,
I think he can do that, especially the fact that Carolina supported 3 top 30 wide receivers last year.
Yep.
Yeah, but what was the highest one of them ranked?
I mean, Bridgewater was, what did he finish? 22nd or so?
I think they were 22 through 25 in PPR,
like
full PPR scoring.
So there's an opportunity for Darnold to thrive. He just has to prove it. And I'm with you, though. It's questionable. There's a non-0% chance he sucks. Right? But I just think that he's going to rise to the occasion. I think this is the right opportunity. He's got confidence. He's got a team that wants him. He's got players around.
They bypassed Justin Fields at 8. So, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they wanted him. They went out and got him, and that has to do wonders for your confidence.
Oh, I completely agree. Jeff stole my best material, which was 3 top 25 wide receivers last year.
What happens when you work for the same company, right? Okay,
but yeah,
I gotta get you ahead, Ryan.
We do. Robbie Anderson was 19, Samuel was 23, and DJ Moore was the wide receiver 25. But Teddy Bridgewater
and DJ Moore is going 2 full rounds right now ahead of Robbie Anderson,
and that's why he's my downside.
Baffling to me.
I would not be surprised if Terrace Marshall outplays Robbie Anderson this year. I'll say it right now. And in fantasy terms, in terms of touchdown scoring and fantasy points per week, I think he outplays Anderson, and I think Anderson's 95 catches last year is going to go down a lot.
And Terrace Marshall is essentially free in fantasy drafts. So that's a guy who, if you are in the 15th round and you're smart enough not to draft a defense or a kicker because you know you can sign one of those guys right before the season starts, Terrace Marshall is a hell of a lottery ticket to add to your roster and see what it could play out for you. So
I would like to bring up that DJ Moore was wide receiver 25 But we all agree there was 3 shallow cross routes where Teddy Bridgewater just didn't throw to him when he was wide open.
Yeah.
And 2 of the 3, he would have taken 70 yards for a touchdown.
If DJ Moore scored 4 more touchdowns, getting him up to like the league average of 8, he would have been the wide receiver 15 last year, and we wouldn't even be talking about last year as a disappointment. He would have performed to where he was being drafted, essentially. So
I'm just going to say this right now.
But that's what he does. He takes half of his touchdowns to the house from 50-plus yards.
Sam Darnold is going to look at DJ Moore, unlike Teddy Bridgewater blatantly missed DJ Moore on shallow cross routes. I mean, we saw, what was it? It was Thursday Night Football. I think they were playing the Saints. DJ Moore had 1 catch the whole night when he should have had about 5 up until that point.
Yep, I remember exactly that game.
And then on the last drive, he gets like 3 catches for 80
yards. It was all
yards.
DJ Moore.
And everyone's like, where the fuck was this the whole game? Like, the dude's unreal. Feed him
I
the
literally
football.
know I don't even
Exact
I
game.
remember every bit of it because
Exact game.
Yeah.
But it's unbelievable. Like, feed him the football. He's that good. He's that good. There's going to be regression for Robbie Anderson, but this could be, on paper, the most skilled team with a terrible quarterback and a shitty offensive line. Because if I told you were going into a season with DJ Moore, Robbie Anderson, Terrace Marshall, David Moore as a 4th receiver from Seattle. I'm sorry, that's a fantastic 4th receiver.
I like David Moore a ton until Terrace Marshall was drafted. I thought he was going to be a great sleeper this year.
Love David Moore. But there's your 4 receivers. Christian McCaffrey, okay.
That'll work.
Chuba Hubbard, who was a 4th-round pick, who was a fantastic
We still have to talk about Mr. Chuba.
Yeah, Chuba, and then you bring in Dan Arnold, who did have a few drop issues in Arizona, but again, it's another receiver that's on the field.
He's a mismatch at his size.
Oh my God, he's a statue.
Yeah.
He's an absolute statue. But you look at their offensive line, the highest draft pick is a 2nd-round pick, and it's Greg Little, who is not
I like
good
Greg
at
Little a lot coming out.
Greg Little was a mistake. I'd be surprised if he gets a lot of play. It's Terrence.
There were a lot of people though that thought he might be better inside than outside, though.
I mean,
what's that?
I said there were a lot of like draft pundits that thought he might be better inside as a guard versus outside as a tackle. So.
I could sort of see that. I mean, he just struggled, and he also had to deal with some concussions, and so there was some drop back there. Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, just look at someone like Eric Flowers. I mean, he was a right tackle coming out of college, and the Giants just ruined him. He moves inside the guard and starts to shine. Like that's the benefit of struggling at tackle. You move them inside, they have a little less wiggle room, which is good.
The offensive line is definitely an area of concern. I'll give you that for sure.
Just real quick, if they move Greg Little inside and replace the 6th-round pick in the same year he came out, Dennis Daly, at left guard, they have Cameron Irving, who is blind at the left tackle position. So it doesn't help them at all. Say Greg Little turns into Zach Martin. It still doesn't help them because Sam Darnold has no one protecting his blind side. So again, it doesn't help them when it comes to pass blocking. Christian McCaffrey could have a Barry Sanders Detroit Lions offensive line in front of him, and he'd still get 2,000 yards. It doesn't matter.
He might have a Barry Sanders type career and retire before he should because he's so tired.
Don't say that.
Don't put that out there.
Don't put that out there. I love him.
Don't
brought
it up.
the best offensive lineman here is Pat Elflein.
No,
he's average.
No, that's incorrect. The best offensive lineman is Taylor Moton, for sure, the right tackle.
Ah, yes.
Yeah.
Elflein is just, he is a fill-in. He's a fill-in at guard that is going to split time. I don't even think we'll see him as a
weird.
full-time starter. I don't see that.
That's weird that Carolina would choose a right guard and a quarterback from the New York Jets to be fill-ins for the 2021 season. That's weird.
Well, he also had experience with Minnesota too, and I would argue that his best time in the NFL came from Minnesota.
It did.
He was good. Who says they have a career year with the Jets? Not many.
Yeah, not many. No, you're right.
Not a damn soul on this earth.
I know. I'm like running through my head now.
Elflein was solid.
Quick calculations here.
Can we? We have to go back to like Curtis Martin.
Like probably.
We have to go all the way
Yeah,
back.
Curtis
but
Martin.
he had like a
their
career
Pro Bowl
with the
center,
Jets.
their Hall of Fame center.
Nick
with
Mangold.
Kevin Mawai.
Nick Mangold too.
And Nick Mangold. Yes,
Nick
you're
Mangold's
right.
fantastic. But yeah, Kevin
but
Mawai is
the
going
question
back.
was career year with the Jets. They had careers with
Eric
the Jets.
Decker.
A little difference.
Eric Decker.
No, Eric Decker
Fair
was
enough.
probably with Denver. Was his
Yeah,
best year.
with
But
that
we're getting off the rails here, aren't we?
Oh, it's
off the rails.
Dude, this is what we do every week.
Whispers even said you got to clip out that part of me talking about getting players from the Jets. Yeah, guys, I don't know why. Who's stealing players from the Jets? Like that's like stealing from Walmart. Like, why would you do that? There's no reason to steal from Walmart. Like, why would you do that? Okay. God, I love doing this. Damn. I love my job. Get to absolutely just destroy just jobs. All these guys are fantastic people. They just suck at their jobs. That's that simple. It's
Corporate America, man.
Yeah, they're bad at their jobs. All right. The Broncos. What a bad team. 5-11 last year. Vic Fangio. Actually don't hate Vic Fangio. I actually do think he's a good coach. It just sucks that John Elway doesn't know how to evaluate the position he's in the Hall of Fame for. It's mind-boggling that he doesn't know how to evaluate.
Elway's not the GM anymore, though.
Okay. Who's their quarterback?
Just saying.
Josh, who's their quarterback? The same guy that John Elway recruited and drafted? So shut up, because it's still John Elway's team. So it's still the guy that John Elway drafted.
Hutch, I miss you. Come back.
Oh, my God. You get him in 2 weeks when I have another game. You get him in 2 weeks. All right, so for upsides here. Ryan, you have Jerry Jeudy. Josh, you have Cortland Sutton. Downside, Ryan, you got Noah Fant. Josh, you have Melvin Gordon. Trust fall, Ryan, you have Melvin Gordon. And Josh, you have Noah Fant. Interesting. And Jeff, you have Melvin Gordon as your trust fall as well. Rookie to watch, Javonte Williams. Just pick the highest rookie drafted that's going to get touches. That's our rookie to watch. It's really that simple. I remember last year for Carolina, we had a guy who went undrafted because
that's right. It was that special teams dude I found that was like 4.240 or
yeah, they went all defense in their draft.
So we couldn't put anyone there. My sleeper, I have Tim Patrick. If one of the top guys goes down, even if they don't, Tim Patrick's still going to get time. But if one of the top guys goes down, Tim Patrick is a good receiver. I like Tim Patrick a lot. I'm surprised another team didn't try and sign him to be their number 2. Jeff also says KJ Hamler. Showed flashes last year. Definitely showed flashes last year. Good football player. My IDP, Justin Simmons. I think this is the 3rd straight year I've had him as the IDP for Denver, but it still blows my mind that he gets overlooked. He's top 5 every year. Justin Simmons is amazing. Please draft Justin Simmons. Just not in the league that you're in with me, because I'm going to draft Justin Simmons ahead of you. So plan for another guy. And then, Jeff, your IDP is A.J. Johnson. I actually don't know who that is, so please enlighten me.
You have stumped the IDP guy. I love it, Jeff.
What is it that you don't know about him?
His name, where he comes from, that he plays football for a living. Like, I don't really.
Well, I mean, here's the thing. I mean, he's a linebacker. He's going to get playing time. I mean, he was an undrafted guy, so not a lot of people know about him. But I like his ability to, just kind of be a well-rounded guy. He gets tackles. He gets a sack here and there. He actually had. Let me look at his stats.
I just want to be. Is it Alexander Johnson? Because that's what I'm looking at. On
AJ Johnson.
Yeah, on the depth chart they have him as
Alexander. Yes, that's right.
Okay, all right.
But it's AJ Johnson. Yeah. So last year he had 75. He played all 16 games, 75 tackles, 1 sack, 2 forced fumbles, and 2 passes defense. That's not bad for a linebacker who's not necessarily a 3-down guy. And I think that we're going to see him play a little bit more of a role this year. So he's kind of my IDP sleeper of someone on Denver who could make a difference. That's not named Devon Miller or what did you just say? Justin
Simmons.
Simmons. Thank you. Yeah.
I mean, Josie Jewell is not solidified in his role by any means. Josie Jewell did play well last year. But that's not to say Alexander can't come in and take his role. And yeah, plus I'm interested to know like if Bradley Chubb being out affected his statistics and his play time any amount. I know Denver runs a 3-4, so a 3-4. They have Von Miller on the line most of the time, but they have 4 linebackers technically on the field with Chubb and Miller being listed as linebackers. So I don't know. I'm interested to see it. I'm not opposed to AJ Johnson as a late round guy, especially if you're in a deep IDP league. Just based off those statistics, Denver's defense is going to be on the field a lot this year. So I am not opposed to a guy who's going to rake in the tackles. But let's start. I feel like let's go with the receivers here. I want to start with Courtland Sutton because obviously he played one game last year. He had 9 fantasy points. He played not even a full game last year.
3 catches, 66 yards.
Yeah, that one hurt because I drafted him to be my number 1 receiver in one league.
As well.
So that hurt. But Jeff, I know you have Jerry Jeudy here, and we can touch on both of these receivers because Jerry Jeudy had his drop issues last year. Heavily had his drop issues last year. His route running was great. He showed flashes of what an Alabama receiver looks like. How do you feel about Courtland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy, assuming they play all 17? How do you feel about them coexisting with each other, and kind of where do they fall at the end of the season?
Well, I feel better about their chances with Teddy Bridgewater under center than anybody else. I mean, we saw what Bridgewater was able to do with the Carolina receivers last year. He'll be able to do that with Jeudy and with Sutton. Sutton, I'm a little bit concerned about because sometimes, not everybody is a Jordy Nelson or a Cooper Kupp who can come right back off of their ACL.
That's the big one, yeah,
and get back into the swing of things. So I'm a little concerned there, slight concern. He had his injury early enough. I think he'll be okay, but you never know. A lot of it's a confidence issue. And speaking of confidence, I think that's exactly why Jerry Jeudy was as he was last year. He's a great route runner. We know that.
Fantastic.
We absolutely know that. He's probably the best route runner to come out of the draft since Odell Beckham, and that's saying something. Maybe Christian McCaffrey, throw him in there too. But
Calvin Ridley.
Well, even better than Ridley in terms of route running. But so Jeudy has the ability. He's got the ability after the catch, before the catch. He just needs to have that confidence level. And I think when Sutton went down, and then when everyone pretty much said, "Okay, Jeudy, what you got, man? Number 10, let's see it." He wanted to show so much that he just kind of got that he couldn't quite handle it. Like Chuck Knobloch, out there couldn't throw the first. So
God, that hurts, Jeff.
I think Judy's going to be absolutely fine this year. I like him a lot. He actually did very well considering, in his rookie year. Everyone's like, well, Jeudy didn't have that great of a year. He still had 50 catches. He had 856 yards and 3 touchdowns. That's not too bad for a rookie wide receiver.
No.
I'll take that, especially with Drew Lock as your quarterback. So I think he's got an opportunity to shine in his second year with Teddy Bridgewater, who is also an accurate quarterback. He was one of the most accurate quarterbacks in the league last year next to Drew Brees, over 70%. That's a huge feather in the cap of Jeudy as well as Sutton, as well as Fant. So the fact that Denver has a defensive coach with all of these offensive talents is a little bit concerning, but hopefully Pat Shurmur will be able to figure it out. I like Denver this year. They're in a tough spot with their division. You've got the Chiefs, the Chargers, even the Raiders have talent.
Yeah.
So Denver's going to have to stick with it and do what they can. But I like the offense that Denver is going to put on the field this year. I mean, especially with Bridgewater. I think his completion percentage is going to do numbers for Jeudy as well as Sutton, Fant, and also the running backs too.
Yep.
Absolutely.
I love that you brought up his accuracy, but then you put Drew Brees in the same sentence, and then it made me mad that you brought up passing accuracy, because dump off Drew Brees doesn't count for passing accuracy. When you dump off to Alvin Kamara 25 times a game, it doesn't count towards your passing accuracy. But go ahead, Ryan.
Well, I was just going to say, Jeff hit the nail on the head with, just look at the stats, just the raw stats. 52 catches, 856 yards, 3 touchdowns. That's a solid rookie season for an NFL wide receiver. Wide receivers don't always break out in their first year.
Yep.
The number that stands out to me is the 46% catch percentage. And yes, he had drops. 9 drops. It was second in the NFL. That's not playing that much into his catch percentage. And that's exactly where Jeff is right, is we either have to see a way improved Drew Lock or Teddy Bridgewater. But if you just bump this guy up to a normal 55 to 59% catch percentage, that's a 10% bump in production. And we're talking about a 1,000-yard wide receiver with 4 to 5 touchdowns and almost 60 catches. That's a great rookie year there. And we're talking a lot more about Jerry Jeudy at that point. Yes, there's a coexistence that's going to have to happen between him and Courtland Sutton, but we've seen Sutton coexist with Emmanuel Sanders 2 years ago. And so it's not like Sutton's not used to having to compete with somebody. The two of them together make a group that is going to be very hard for teams to cover.
Yep. High five.
Yeah,
Rob.
fan in there.
High five. Oh wait, other side.
Yep,
Other way.
side.
Other way.
Other way. It's almost like it's almost like SMU receivers are really good at coexisting with other receivers.
Yeah. Here's the problem with all that sentiment towards Jerry Jeudy. He's not a true number one, and Courtland Sutton is. Courtland Sutton can dominate. He can contest the catch. He can bring down all those balls. I don't care who's throwing him the football. He was doing it with Drew Lock. He was doing it with Jeff Driscoll and all those people in 2019 when he had 124 targets. He is a wide receiver one. Jerry Jeudy is a slot receiver that's masquerading as an outright receiver.
I don't know about that.
Yeah,
I don't agree
Look
with you
at
there.
the numbers at Alabama.
Hold on. Here's the thing. Jeudy can be the Robbie Anderson for Teddy Bridgewater.
With a much lower catch percentage.
Can be that DJ Moore role. So Anderson had 95 catches with Bridgewater last year. Jeudy can be that role. Granted, it's a different offensive system. It's a different offensive system, but Jeudy can play. Jeudy can play. He can play slot. He can play outside. He is one of the best.
I love that we're saying he's not a wide receiver one after one rookie year on a bad team with a quarterback that was second.
I never thought he was a wide receiver one to begin with.
I'm not disagreeing with you about Sutton. In fact, Sutton has that role on the team. I agree with that. But I think that Jeudy, you're underselling Jeudy. And he has that ability to be the.
I'm underselling the fact that Noah Fant is the wide receiver 2 on this team.
If Sutton is the X, Jeudy can play the Z or the Y.
Secondary, tertiary in this offense, in my opinion. That's the way I look at it. Because right now, Noah Fant is going to see matchups that are more beneficial than what Jerry Jeudy will see. Sutton is the one who this offense runs through outside of the running backs, in my opinion. They're going to use Sutton as the alpha. They're going to run through Gordon, and until then, Williams. And then Fant is the mismatch. Jeudy is the tertiary piece in this passing offense. That's why I don't see him. Like, I get the upside perspective because he's going later than Sutton, but he's not going so much later than Sutton that it makes him a screaming buy to me.
But
like everybody last year was all about, give me the late round guy between Deontay Johnson and James Washington. Well, look how that worked out when you went James Washington. Deontay Johnson is legit. Courtland Sutton is legit. And I'm not saying that Jerry Jeudy is James Washington, but I'm saying that there is another option in this offense that creates the mismatches that Jeudy will not see.
I just don't know why we're so convinced that Sutton's big target year last year Fant's big target year last year wasn't because Sutton was out. Like, Sutton the year before, and I understand he was a rookie.
If we were talking about a 4th, 3rd, 5th round tight end, I would agree. They took him in the first round for a reason. He is that mismatch guy for them.
The Ravens took Hayden Hurst in the first round over Lamar Jackson. NFL teams don't.
Who did nothing for them. Noah Fant has done something for Denver.
What is like a 5-11 season with 66 catches and 5 touchdowns?
Hey, he was the only target that caught a pass from Kendall Hinton. All right, calm yourself. All right.
Josh, all I know is you're the same guy who was going gung ho on Jalen Reagor last year, so I don't really trust your.
And I kind of fell into that trap too.
So,
that hurts.
Jerry Jeudy's fine. Jerry Jeudy's fine. This team's gonna play from behind.
Exactly.
Look at their fucking division.
Not great.
Can we talk about Melvin Gordon and Javonte Williams?
Yeah, real quick. After I just slay Josh here for a quick second, dude. They're playing Mahomes and Justin Herbert 4 times a year. Jerry Jeudy will have 100 yards in each of those games. You want to know why?
So you think he's going to have 400-yard games this year?
Yes, and they will become against the Chiefs and the Chargers. You want to know why?
That guy.
All right.
Because they're going to be down They're going to be down 35-0.
That's a nice bet. Ryan, I'm going to need you to make note of that because we're coming back to that one.
God, remember when Josh tries to argue with me and then always ends up being incorrect because
4 100-yard games, 2 against the Chargers, 2 against the Chiefs. All right.
I don't understand. And also, I want to go back to the fact you said Teddy Bridgewater sucks, and when we talked about the Panthers,
he's average.
No. Shut up.
No, I did say he sucks, yes, but just because you're average doesn't mean you don't suck.
For a quick second, you said when we talked about the Broncos, Teddy Bridgewater, and I quote, sucks. When we talked about him with the Panthers, you said, yeah, Bridgewater is average. He had a solid year last year. What the fuck's the difference big guy?
Solid. He had 16 touchdowns, 10 interceptions.
Josh, you said he was solid when he was with the Panthers.
No, I said he was average.
But now that he's in Denver, you're punching him in the.
He's not going to make anybody better. He's not making anybody better.
He will.
I'm sorry. Just real quick. How good was Robbie Anderson before he played with Teddy Bridgewater?
Bridgewater will do more for the Broncos than what Drew Lock has done.
It's the scheme that made Robbie Anderson good.
But that's fine. Drew Lock is not good.
Yeah, Drew Lock's terrible. Also, Drew Lock loves the tight end. If Drew Lock plays quarterback, Noah Fan over Jerry Jeudy every day. Teddy Bridgewater hates the tight end.
Why are we so sure that Teddy Bridgewater is going to be the quarterback? Just because they made a trade for him doesn't mean shit.
He's better than Drew Lock.
No.
Well, yes, Drew Lock does know the offense, but that's about all he has right now.
Yeah.
He needs to stay healthy. There's no upside with Teddy Bridgewater. None whatsoever.
What's the upside?
There's still the chance of upside with Drew Lock.
All right, I'm going to throw one thing out before we move on to these running backs because it came up again today, and actually we talked about it in the football guys chat a little bit. Aaron Rodgers to Detroit is still a swirling rumor.
Denver,
my apologies. Aaron Rodgers to Denver, that'd be insane. But Aaron Rodgers to Denver is still a swirling rumor. Do we just love everybody if that happens?
No.
Yes, we do.
No, because Aaron Rodgers doesn't like number 2 receivers, Ryan. So it's only Cortland Sutton. Jerry Jeudy's going to be irrelevant.
Fucking moon.
Randall Cobb has something to say about that.
Yeah, but Jeff, according to Josh, Aaron Rodgers doesn't like second receivers. And Ryan, they don't like second receivers.
Over the last
he doesn't have
James Jones and his 14 touchdowns also has something to say about that. So
thank you, Jeff.
Randall Cobb did okay.
Thank you, Jeff. James Jones was God when he was in Green Bay. All right? I don't want to hear any James Jones slander here. James Jones was amazing. He was incredible.
And then he went to the Raiders.
Yep.
Javon Walker. Remember Javon Walker?
Yes.
Yes.
That was fun.
Yeah.
Last first-round wide receiver given Aaron Rodgers? Yeah.
All right. I'm done.
Green Bay in general, yeah.
I'm done emasculating Josh. That was the rant for
running
today.
back.
Melvin Gordon, Javonte Williams. You have 2 big backs. Hey, let's throw in Royce Freeman. He's also a big back, but Royce Freeman's irrelevant. They have a lot of big backs in this offense, and then Michael Boone for some reason. I don't like. Is it going to be a split, and then in week 8, it's like, oh, Javonte, you know the offense. We'll go with Javonte Williams. Jeff, how do you see it playing out this entire season? Because to me, I think Melvin Gordon's just washed, and they should just give it to Javonte Williams as the 1A.
I sort of agree, but I don't think he's washed. I think that they're going to rely on Gordon. He's going to be their primary running back until Javonte Williams proves that he can be better.
Yep.
Williams is going to get carries. He might get at most maybe 9 carries in a game at first, right? But if he can turn those 9 carries, we've seen it before, 9 carries into like 70 yards and a touchdown, that next week everyone's going to be like, oh, what's he going to do now? And Williams is eventually going to overtake Gordon. Yes. But I don't know if that's going to happen midseason. I don't know if it's going to happen next year. I do like Gordon as a running back at first in the early part of the season as who Denver is going to rely on. He knows the offense. He knows the team. He's going to be the rock that they lean on, and Williams is going to get some carries here and there. And I think that it's Gordon's role until Williams proves that he can be a better, more reliable replacement.
I want to put out some measurements here. Melvin Gordon is 6'1", 215. Javonte Williams is 3 inches shorter and 5 pounds heavier. I would much rather have a 5'10", 220-pound Javonte Williams, who I think everyone agrees was one of the best, if not, I would probably the second best behind Najee coming out of the draft this year. Some put him ahead of Najee. We're looking at 1A, 1B with Najee Harris coming out of the draft this year. I'm sorry. Melvin Gordon has done nothing to impress me since, was it 3 seasons ago now at this point, when he had that true split with Austin Eckler and they both played unbelievably that year. Melvin Gordon, he's 28 too. I didn't realize that. I didn't think he was that old.
Yeah.
He's 28. So again, nearing that 30-year-old threat.
Well, and he only signed a 2-year deal with Denver, and this is the last of that 2-year deal. Yeah.
Yeah, so they know that they're moving on from him, and the question is just when.
Exactly. Yeah. So why not run him into the ground this year is my theory, because my whole thing is, we were talking about how bad Denver is, especially how bad they were last year. Melvin Gordon averaged 4.6 yards a carry, finished as the RB14 in fantasy, and is currently going off the board. And again, I'm just using underdog for now, in the 8th round of fantasy drafts. You have to jump up 2 rounds to get Javonte Williams. He's going off in the 6th round. For the beginning of the season, now keep in mind, underdog is best ball. So Javonte Williams in a regular league, if that happens, Javonte Williams may end up cut after 3 weeks on a fantasy team because they're not going to get the performance they thought they were going to get out of him. And then you sign him for free, and you are so happy in the second half of the season. I will be surprised if Javonte Williams' season mirrors what we saw out of Jonathan Taylor last year, where he was super disappointing for about 8 weeks, and then everything fell into place, and that's something I could see happen again.
Yeah, Javonte on fantasy data right now is overall 52 among running backs. So, like, he's going in the 12th round, which I think is asinine. But, again, to your point, like, I fully agree that Gordon's going to be the guy, at least for the first half of the season. But, and this is why I don't have him as my trust fall. What happens that first injury? Anytime you're dealing with older backs, that one injury, they're going to lose their job. Like, it's not if he's like 24, 25, one injury is not going to set him back for the rest of the season, potentially. But an older back, that one injury opens up a gate for a young guy. And that's what Javonte is. He's the young guy that's coming in. This is going to be his job. It's only a matter of time as to when that's going to happen. That's why I look at him as a downside, Gordon, that is, despite his ADP. I mean, he's going as like RB25, according to fantasy data, which isn't anything bad. I mean, that's what a low end RB2. Like, that's to me, that's great value, because that's somebody you're probably going to end up replacing halfway through the year anyway. But it's just that wiggle room. It's the unknown. It could be week 2. It could be week 10. It could be week 14. We don't know with Gordon. But we've seen it before with Denver. They're going to run more of a 1A, 1B with these guys. They did it with Lindsey and Gordon last year when it came to health. And I think that's ultimately what you're going to see with these guys. They're very interchangeable. They're very similar backs. Like, Joe, you touched on their size. Yes, Javonte's shorter, but 5 pounds heavier, that's not like 15 pounds heavier. So they do still play very similar roles, and they have very similar skill sets. And we even talked about this when we had John Helmkamp on during the Stars of Tomorrow RB show preview, when he literally said Denver would be a great place for Javonte Williams. Yep. And boom, it happens. And they traded up to get him. So he is their future. He is the guy that you eventually want. It's always going to be a matter of how soon does that start?
Yep. And that's Javonte Williams reminds me a little bit of Kareem Hunt. And remember when Kareem Hunt got his chance? Remember when Spencer Ware got hurt and Kareem Hunt comes in as the starter the year. I mean, if Gordon gets hurt in preseason and Javonte Williams becomes the starter, he's sky's the limit on what he can do.
And it's not like Gordon's been a picture perfect example of health. He's had his health issues. I mean, only twice in his career has he averaged more than 4 yards per carry. I still don't understand how one of those was last year, because Denver's offensive line isn't anything great. But it was.
Left side will be good this year. The left side will be good this year, but that's the right side is not good. I want to introduce our first Would You Rather of the 2021 official season.
Hey-o!
Because we got Melvin Gordon. I'm going off Fantasy Pros here. Melvin Gordon averaged about RB 26. Javonte Williams at about RB 40. Okay. So overall, Melvin Gordon, he's in the 7th round, top half. Javonte Williams is in the top half of the 11th round. So here's what we're going to do. Ryan, Josh, you guys know. Jeff, what we're going to do is I'm going to name the 2 guys being drafted ahead of said Melvin Gordon and Javonte Williams, and the 2 guys being drafted after Melvin Gordon and Javonte Williams. You tell me, who would you rather have? I don't want an explanation. I just want, who would you rather have, player X or player Y? So we'll start. Who would you rather have at RB 26, Melvin Gordon, 2 spots ahead at RB 24, Kareem Hunt? Jeff, who would you rather have?
I'd rather have Kareem Hunt.
Josh?
Kareem Hunt.
Ryan?
Kareem Hunt.
That's an easy one. Kareem Hunt. 25, Raheem Mostert or Melvin Gordon? Jeff?
Gordon.
Josh?
Gordon. Easy one for me.
MG3.
I mean, if you can guarantee me Raheem Mostert's going to be healthy for 13 games, I'd probably pick Raheem Mostert, but you can't. So
I just don't trust San Francisco in
plus
general.
the carry share in San Fran is just
That's true. That's true.
They cycle through running backs like nothing.
I like
and they just spent 2 draft picks on running backs.
Yeah,
I want nothing to do with
I like the
Mostert
skill of Raheem Mostert more. I'm not a big fan of Melvin Gordon, but yeah, I would go Melvin Gordon here. Melvin Gordon at 26. Melvin Gordon or David Johnson at RB 27. Jeff?
Gordon.
Josh?
Gordon to the moon.
Ryan? Melvin Gordon, it's not even a question at that point. This one to me is a little interesting. Melvin Gordon or Chase Edmonds? Jeff? That's like, do you want to roll the dice?
I'd rather have Edmonds.
Okay. All right. Josh?
Gordon.
Ryan?
He's
looking at his rankings right now.
Yep. I was like, God, I honestly don't know at this point. No, I'm pretty high on Edmonds. I'd go Edmonds.
He's one-dimensional for me.
I would go Edmonds as well. Again, I don't like Melvin Gordon, but I would go Edmonds as well. I mean, do you want to roll the dice with Edmonds and see how Arizona uses their backfield, or go with the more?
That's what I'm saying. I know what I'm getting from Gordon. I know what type
Gordon's
of role
the
he's
safer
playing.
option.
Yeah,
And at that point,
you may not have him anymore.
That's true.
Therein lies the rub.
So let me ask then, because maybe you stack him here because there's outside of Kareem Hunt, I mean, Raheem Mostert, David Johnson, it's very clear that Melvin Gordon is the better option of those 2 guys. So for the most part, Melvin Gordon is better than a lot of the options around him right now, at least more than half. You go down to Javonte Williams, I think it's a perfect handcuff because you look at some of these guys. We'll start. Javonte Williams is at RB 40, so J.D. McKissick is RB 38. Who would you rather have, J.D. McKissick or Javonte Williams? Jeff?
Williams.
Josh?
Williams. I want nothing to do with McKissick this year.
Ryan?
I draft for the early season. Give me mixed mooches.
Okay.
The reason I would rather have Williams because this is probably my RB3. I'd rather have Williams as an RB3 upside than McKissick as an RB3 that I'm not sure when to play.
This is the 11th round.
Okay.
You have a sack on you.
Yeah.
You have a
RB4.
sack on you. Yeah, I was just. That's my RB5.
You're right. Okay, there you go.
That's the
I wouldn't even take
modified
Williams
zero
over
RB
RB3.
approach, Joe. Don't you know about that? Come on now.
I was like, damn, you got balls going into the 11th round with 2 running backs. All right, RB39. Devin Singletary or Javonte Williams? Jeff?
Williams.
Josh?
Williams.
Ryan?
Williams.
It's not even close. Williams is 40. How about this? RB41. Zach Moss or Javonte Williams? Jeff?
Williams.
Josh?
I'm a little intrigued by Moss here.
Okay.
Buffalo passes too much.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'd go.
I
Moss.
know, but I don't know. I think something's to say about Moss, and he's going to be the primary ball carrier, whatever that actually entails.
Okay. Kate and Michelle, what's your pick here?
I'm going Moss.
Okay. Josh?
Moss, I said.
Moss.
Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. Shout out Ball Blast, who are the Zach Moss stands, which is why I said Kate and Michelle. I would go with Javonte Williams. He's going to get more usage. It's just that
If
simple.
there's a question about both running backs, why not go with the better running back? And that's Williams.
Very clearly, it's Javonte Williams.
Yeah.
And last guy here, who I think is also kind of interesting, but again, depends on how the starter feels. Javonte Williams or Tony Pollard. Jeff,
Williams.
Josh,
Williams, easy for me.
Ryan,
In a perfect world, Tony Pollard doesn't see the field. Give me Williams.
Yep.
Javonte Williams. So just from what you're hearing, ladies and gentlemen, you can draft Melvin Gordon and Javonte Williams 5 rounds apart and still be happy with your selection because the players being taken around them are terrible.
Suck.
Yeah.
So like, and again, actually, I want to pull this one out because I think this one is interesting. As I scroll down here, this will be the last one that I pull out. Would you rather Javonte Williams in the top of the 11th or Philip Lindsay in the back end of the 14th? Jeff?
Williams.
Okay, Josh.
Williams.
Ryan.
Both.
Well, you can take both.
You have
Damn
to
it,
pick.
Ryan! Follow the rules.
You have to pick.
No, I'd go Williams.
Really,
Houston's
I
going to be
thought there'd
so bad.
I know they're going to be terrible, but I thought there'd be a little more Philip Lindsay.
No, I
involved.
love what Howard Bennett said 2 weeks ago. Lindsey sucks in passing downs. He cannot pass block. So that's
he's
really going to
terrible.
limit his usage. And I know all of us think that, because he's a smaller back, that we look at him as this sort of like scat back that can, be in there on third downs and catch passes and all this stuff. But that's not the case. When he's catching passes, it's literally because they're scheming for him to get the ball in his hands. That limits his opportunities.
You know what warms my heart? Sony Michel's the RB 61 and is drafted, and that makes me feel good inside as a Patriot.
Williams.
Williams. Williams.
Williams to the moon.
Sony Michel, who will be cut before September, or Javonte Williams. Javonte Williams. All right. What a good show.
I'd take Michael Carter over Sony Michel.
Yes.
I would.
Yep.
I would literally take any running
Yeah,
back on
right.
an NFL roster. Over
Okay,
Sony
I
Michel.
know we need to wrap up. Michael Carter or Javonte Williams?
Michael Carter.
Williams.
It's Carter for me.
Michael Carter's the starter.
Let me tell you why it's Williams.
Okay.
This year, Michael Carter.
In
This
Dynasty,
year,
it's
this year,
Javonte
any
Williams.
year, it's Williams.
Dynasty is Javonte Williams, hands down.
Look, the only difference between both Michael Carter and Javonte Williams, they both played, of course, with UNC last year. They both had almost identical stats, except for touchdowns. Williams scored 19 touchdowns, and Carter had 9. So Williams is a touchdown scorer, and Carter isn't as good.
Yeah.
So Williams is the better running back. We know this. Carter might be the better,
Volume player.
elusive
Oh.
type of back.
Yeah.
Almost more like a change of pace type of guy. But Williams he's the starter. He's the horse. I think he can go the distance. Williams is going to, in my opinion, I think Williams is going to be probably a first or second round pick next year.
All right.
Damn.
Yeah,
love it.
I mean, I have Carter about projected roughly 22 points more than Williams this year.
And
So, I mean, that really
I-
could flop either way.
Yeah, it's just.
But I think that's also strictly there's no one in Michael Carter's way,
No, there's
whereas there's
nobody
Melvin
at all.
Gordon in Javonte Williams' way.
Yeah, and I mean, if Mike LaFleur is running a system that's very similar to Kyle Shanahan, it's going to be opportunistic for running backs. We just know that. I understand the quality of the offensive line in New York, etc. But Carter's ability as a pass catcher is going to separate him from whoever's behind him because Tevin Coleman's a skeleton. He's awful, terrible at football right now. Just awful.
I also I want to throw out there, like we talk about bad offensive line in New York. I already said it. The left side of Denver's offensive line is good. Dalton Reisner and Garrett Bowles. I like both of them. I think they're very good. But Lloyd Cushenberry, Graham Glasgow, Bobby Massey is so fucking bad at right tackle. It's unbelievable he still has a job. But the right side of their line is terrible. Look at the Jets.
Same
The
thing.
right side of their line is atrocious, and they have Mekhi Becton and Elijah Vera Tucker on the left side. So again, if these teams don't run inside zone to the left side every single run play. They're doing it wrong. It's that simple. It should be weak side inside zone because Noah Fant can't block, so just put him on the other side. But again, you're looking at two UNC running backs almost in identical situations when it comes to offensive line. Obviously, I don't think there's any doubt, Denver's the better team. But they're in identical situations when it comes to what affects them, the offensive line, and the opportunity they're going to get. Williams is going to have more hurdles in his opportunity earlier in the season, but we all believe it's going to happen in the second half of the season, whereas Michael Carter, the only guy in front of him is LaMichael Pirine, who was drafted the same round as he was the year before, except the year before, he wasn't this regime's draft pick, whereas Michael Carter was this regime's draft pick, which means, in theory, they're going to favor Michael Carter more than they would LaMichael Pirine. So again, hence why Josh has him for more points, but all of us agreeing. Jeff saying Javonte Williams this year and forever. We're saying Michael Carter and then Javonte Williams in Dynasty.
If you want to frame a reference, Joe, just for shits and giggles,
sure.
Michael Carter, throughout his college career, averaged more yards per carry running left than he did running right.
Woo.
And Javonte Williams is the complete opposite.
Oh, no.
Deep in the weeds now.
This is per Pro Football Focus.
I do.
I'm literally just looking at like the spikes of like yards per carry, and all the spikes yards per carry wise, like on the left side for Marker Carter, on the right side for Javonte Williams. It's funny to me. So,
Williams is a bigger back, so I think.
Oh, absolutely. I don't think it's going to matter much. He led all of NCAA last year in forced missed tackles. It's not going to matter to him, but for a smaller back like Michael Carter, that
definitely.
matters.
No, 100%. Especially the defenses in his division, Michael Carter's division, pretty damn good. New England, Buffalo, and Miami, all top half, or if not top 10 defenses heading into this year. All right, what a show! What a great show! Thanks for joining, Jeff.
Yes.
Hope you had
This
fun,
is awesome,
man.
Jeff.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me on. It was fun. How long have we gone here? Wow, we have an hour and a half.
80 minutes.
Yeah,
almost.
90 minutes.
Give it time. It takes Joe about
minutes.
10 minutes to wrap the show up, so I'm sure it'll reach an hour and a half.
Hour and a half. That's my bad. I've been here in a month.
You had a lot to say.
Josh is a moron, so you gotta.
Well, hopefully everyone who's listening learned something, and they're driving or they're
That's
doing
the goal,
their exercise and they're listening to us right now, by the way. Don't forget to stretch. But yeah, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
We appreciate it.
A lot of fun, Jeff. Thank you.
This was a heck of a lot of fun. Now, before we wrap up here, Jeff, where can everyone find you and your work and everything you do?
Yes. You can find me at footballguys.com of the hat. Yes. And I just dropped an article on Calvin Ridley, why I think he's going to be the wide receiver one, or why I think he could be. Let's put it in perspective, even though I do have him ranked number one. Wide receiver one. I've got an article coming up on Antonio Gibson, and article coming up on DJ Moore as well. So we're going to delve into him and find out what we can learn from him. So not only that, but also
see how biased that DJ Moore article is, Jeff.
Oh no, it won't be.
DJ Moore's a downside.
He's got 10 touchdowns in 3 years. I mean, he has some high spots. He's absolutely wonderful after the catch.
Agreed.
Anyway, you'll have to read the article. I haven't even written it yet, but yeah, you'll have to read the article.
You have to read it. I haven't written it yet, but you should read it.
Foreshadowing.
Read it. And you can also find me local podcasts that I do, Carolina Fandom, where we talk to Carolina fans, whether they're Panthers fans, Hornets fans, Charlotte FC, our new MLS soccer team. I just dropped an hour. I'm usually not an hour or a wee guy, so I apologize for that. But yeah, absolutely. Football Guys, that's where you can find me. I'm doing all kinds of stuff there. So thank you.
Heck yeah. LFG awesome. Football Guys.
Love it.
Heck yeah. All right. Josh, you didn't tell me who's on the show next week, so I can't really say who's on the show.
So
next
kick
week.
it over to Ryan, who booked the guest, and he'll tell you.
Oh, Josh. I literally show up Wednesday.
We know
before the show.
That's why I mishunched. I can write all this out for him.
I legitimately, I am going to be working 6 straight 17-hour days Thursday through Tuesday, and then I'm going to show up Wednesday, 20 minutes before the show, not have looked at a single thing on the damn show doc, and still spew 90 minutes of somewhat intelligible fantasy football content.
Next week, we will have Mr. Consistency himself, Bob Lung, here to represent the Fantasy Football Expo. So he'll be talking all about the great expo that's going to be happening in Canton in August, and talk some consistency and some football.
Heck yeah. Bob Long.
Cowboys, Giants, and 49ers next week.
Oh, God. So many teams to tear apart.
Something tells me
eviscerate half of the NFC East.
There might not be a lot of consistency for Bob to talk about with those teams.
What's Bob's team?
It's a great question. He lives in Canton, so I'm going to guess maybe the Browns.
Okay. Probably.
Tough life for Bob. Getting better, but tough life for Bob.
Yeah.
All right.
That expo is going to be packed. I think he's doing okay, Joe.
Yeah.
I meant as a sports fan, not as a man in life. I just want to, you could be a Patriots fan, but your life sucks. You could be a Browns fan and your life's great. There's two sides to these things. If you're a Detroit sports fan, your life sucks as a whole. As a whole, and I'm sorry. I apologize. It just sucks. You guys had Max Scherzer, Justin Verlander, Miguel Cabrera all at once on the same team and couldn't make a World Series. So you're just tough times for Detroit here. I work with 3 Detroit sports fans. I can say that because they allow me to. It's like
They had Calvin Johnson and couldn't do anything with him.
And then Barry Sanders before that.
Barry Sanders, Billy Sims.
Actually, they had Calvin Johnson and ruined catching in the NFL. Shout out to the Detroit Lions for doing that. All right. Next week, we have Bob Long on talking Cowboys, Giants, and 49ers. A look inside preview. I can't even give you a preview on that. The Giants suck. The Cowboys will underwhelm once again, and Trey Lance will start week 1 because Jimmy Garoppolo's terrible. There's your preview.
Cowboys, Giants, and 49ers. It sounds like a John Madden, Pat Summerall game.
Right? Literally.
Oh, we got to bust out the Madden video game previews for this? Is that what we got to do?
Oh, boy. All right, you can follow Josh at the One Hudsonian, Ryan at the Fantasy 5, Jeff at Jeff Haseley, that's Haseley for those.
Haseley.
It's spelled Haseley. It's pronounced
It's spelled Haseley. Jeff Haseley, Haseley. I nailed it at the top of the show.
Oh, you did.
So,
right.
You asked him after
That's
I
right.
texted
You got your viewer counts up at the front.
There we go.
I want to point out I was 66% because I said his name twice at the beginning of the show.
Boom.
So please give me my credit where my credit is due. You can follow me at Joe_Zolo. You can follow the team I work for, the Bismarck Larks, at Bismarck Larks on Twitter. Please go follow them. Shameless plug.
Hashtag not a sponsor.
Hashtag not a sponsor. Hashtag LFG Larks. We have the league leader in RBIs right now. So it's a good day over here in Bismarck. But thank you everyone for listening. Next week, same time, same place. I'll be here once again. You get Hutch back in 2 weeks, and we won't tell you who the guest is that week. We will get to that next week. So you have to stay tuned to find out who Hutch is replacing me for, and who will be the guest that he is. I'll just tell you, he's eagerly excited about it. So it's a pretty big name, along with who we've had in the past 2 weeks: Howard, Matthew, and of course Jeff this week. We're super excited to have Bob on next week. Always remember, defense wins championships, offense wins fantasy football. We will see you next week.